over at Salesforce here to discuss how they've been using the product and give you some tips on best practices for using the product. Lastly, we'll finish up with a Q&A and give you guys an opportunity to speak to us and ask any questions you have. Okay, so getting started, why did we introduce company updates? So it should come as no surprise to anybody on the phone today that social media is playing a big impact in talent acquisition and brand building. There's a recent poll that Media Bistro did that they reached out to about 1,000 talent professionals, and what they found is that of those 1,000 talent professionals, 73% of them had hired successfully using social media. 42% of the companies that they reached out to said that due to their usage of social media, they felt that candidate quality had improved. And 20% say that now that they use social media, it actually takes less time for them to hire candidates that they're looking for. So we saw all of this, and we saw a bit of a gap in terms of what our product offered. We felt as though it was a good opportunity, that there was a good opportunity for us to introduce some new features that had more of a social element. So we reached out to a whole bunch of clients and really tried to figure out how we can potentially improve our product. So one thing that clients told us is that they really wanted the ability to more easily communicate with interested candidates. There's a lot of ways to brand yourself on Glassdoor and to put information about your company culture, but they didn't have that. Customers felt that they were lacking that real-time ability to update to update candidates on events that are going on at the company, on job opportunities that they have. Another thing that we found out is that clients wanted more of an opportunity to reach out to passive candidates. So people who are just coming to their website to potentially research salary information or just do some basic research on companies. People who aren't actively looking for jobs, employers really don't have an ability to reach out to those guys and say, hey, we're currently hiring for this position, or hey, this is something really exciting that we're getting involved with. So that was another thing that we heard loud and clear. Another thing was, Glassdoor is all about providing that transparency and that engagement, and they wanted more tools to do that. Lastly, they wanted a more dedicated outlet for HR and talent acquisition. And this was a big one because when we reached out to clients, when we reached out to employers, what we found is that a lot of them were using social media, but in many cases, the ability to easily post and access to their corporate social media accounts was something that was limited or oftentimes taken away from them by marketing departments or PR departments. And so they didn't have the ability to easily access that platform. And so what they really wanted was they wanted a social media platform that was had a real focus for them for HR and talent acquisition. So we heard all of those things. And we kind of sat in rooms for long nights with the product guys, and we tried to figure out what we could do to address all of these things and create our own kind of tool that has a social media element. So what we ended up coming up with was company updates. So company updates essentially offers employers the ability to post updates about their company. These updates are a maximum of 600 characters, and they appear on your Glassdoor homepage, and they can include things like photos and links. When job seekers see these updates, they have the ability to tag them as being useful or not useful, and they also have the ability to follow your company. Once a job seeker follows your company, they're displaying interest in your company. And that enables you to start building a community of candidates who, both active and passive, are interested in your company. So when they follow your company, they also start receiving a weekly email that keeps them abreast of all the different things that you're doing. Company Updates also appears at the top level of our iOS app and also on mobile web. You can see it in the pictures there. So those are now the first things that people are seeing when they're researching your company. Android is something that we're working on. It'll be out shortly. So how do you actually post company updates? Company updates appear in your employer center, and it's available to both FEA clients with free accounts and also to paid accounts. So it's a completely free tool, and it enables. It's available in your employer center under the new tab that says Updates. In the new tab that says Updates, you can basically post your update there, and there's a button that's missing in this image, but you have the ability to also upload a photo. One other thing that you can't see in this photo is that there's some pretty comprehensive analytics that show you information on your follower count, on engagement, on the different posts that you're posting, on other companies that people who are following your company are also interested in. So it gives you some really interesting insight into these posts. With the analytics, we're really striving, especially this year, to help make sure that you guys have as much data and as much analytics accessible to you, so that you can be reactive and you can kind of adjust your messaging accordingly. Company Updates is no different. You can see very specific information when you post a update on how many people have engaged with that update, how many people have liked the update. It records the time that you posted the update, of course, the subject matter, and that's going to help you get a sense for what's really resonating with people who are interested in your company and what isn't. We also recently introduced an integration with Hootsuite that allows Hootsuite users to utilize the Hootsuite application to post updates to Glassdoor along their updates to Facebook, Twitter, all of the other things. Hootsuite makes a great app to manage your social media profiles, and it's widely used by larger customers who have multiple social media accounts that they need to keep track of, that they need to schedule updates for. So if you're already using Hootsuite and you're using it to post updates on your LinkedIn account, on your Facebook account, you can now do that on using for Glassdoor as well. And with Hootsuite, it's not a native integration. You actually have to go into the App Store and download it, but it's completely free. So the key benefits of Glassdoor company updates are essentially that it enables you to communicate with millions of motivated active and passive candidates on Glassdoor. And that passive candidates thing, that's something that we heard loud and clear from our customers that we were speaking to. It also enables you to build and foster a community of job seekers who have signaled interest in your company. This is going to be great for helping out to ensure that you have that pipeline of candidates who are interested in you, and that you can fill positions as they come up. The ability right now to directly communicate with those people is fairly basic at this point. You can post updates, and your followers are going to receive them in weekly updates. But in the future, we're looking at introducing some new functionality that enables you to more directly communicate with these people and also target them by segment. The other thing is the dedicated social media outlet. So this is something as we had heard loud and clear from clients that they didn't have. This is something that we really wanted to offer to talent acquisition and HR professionals. So this is something that you guys, the talent acquisition and HR professionals, are generally managing the Glassdoor account. You guys are going to have direct access to company updates and be able to engage with people on Glassdoor easily. We don't, we think that this is going to remain in your wheelhouse and isn't going to be, hopefully, you'll be able to convince internal stakeholders that this doesn't need to be in the realm of marketing or PR. And lastly, in terms of messaging, and when I pass this over to our friends over at Salesforce, they'll tell you a bit about how they're using it. But it's a great opportunity to be able to promote acute hiring needs that you have, as well as events that are coming up and insight into company culture. So these are kind of the main things that help us stand out. Additionally, the user base of Glassdoor is growing leaps and bounds. We're actually the fastest growing career website currently around. That's of significant scale. And so using company updates, getting access to our, I think it's 23 million unique monthly users that we have per month is a great thing. I mean, it's free to access, again, as I mentioned, for both FEA and for EP clients, and you're really getting to access a targeted group of well-researched, highly educated job seekers. So, it's at no cost. It really isn't much of a risk to you guys, and we think it's going to be a great tool. What we've seen so far is, well, I'll go over this really quickly, but in terms of how our offering is unique, I mentioned this previously, we've really got the single-minded focus on talent acquisition. Unlike other social media outlets like LinkedIn, like Facebook, like Twitter, people post all kinds of information on there. You've got product updates on there, you've got different things like that, and I think what we're really striving to achieve is to become a place where job seekers are going, and for company updates to be a destination for job seekers who are really interested in gaining insight into that company and into working into that company. So that focus of ours is going to be a differentiator for us as opposed to other social media outlets. Companies can also leverage promote content that's unique to their Glassdoor profile, so they can provide links to reviews that they're very interested in. And also, when you look at us versus other competition out there, Career Builder, Monster, some of the older players in the marketplace, they don't have anything like this, and so this is really something that's going to help us stand out. We're always trying to stay ahead of the curve to provide unique and new innovative functionality, and this is just kind of another example of that. In terms of what we've seen so far with clients who have been engaged using company updates, from the people who we've seen, so just to give you a little bit of background, we did an extended beta just with our clients for the last few months. And for those clients, we saw about a 16% improvement in follower acquisition. So this was big for clients and something that they really liked. When they were engaged in company updates, as opposed to when they weren't engaged previously, they really started to see a lift in the number of people who are following their company and potential candidate pipeline. Another thing we've seen is a 14% increase in the time being spent on the overview page. So when you've got this engaging content on the profile pages, we're seeing, when we look at the time on site, we're seeing a pretty substantial increase in that. So, those are two kind of success metrics that we've seen so far that have moved the needle. As we continue to do research and to see how this is really affecting job seeker behavior, and we continue to add functionality, we expect these numbers to increase, and we expect to be able to show you new numbers on why company updates is a worthwhile tool for you to invest in. So with that, and speaking about kind of companies that have found it to be a worthwhile tool, I'm going to pass it over to Salesforce. They've been using company updates for a little while, and they're going to share some experiences on how they use social media and also how they use company updates on Glassdoor.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here today to talk about our strategy around company updates as well as our approach. So as everyone knows, Salesforce, we're a super social company. So when Glassdoor announced company updates, we were really thrilled and we jumped right on the bandwagon. We've been using the feature since last November. A little bit about why. We know Glassdoor has huge momentum, and we're seeing it as an increasingly important channel for us to reach the savvy job seekers out there who really want to know more about what it's like to work at Salesforce before they apply and during the interview process with us. And we see our enhanced profile combined with the company updates feature as a fantastic opportunity to tell our story. And that story comes out alongside the reviews from our employees. So it's a great counterbalance. And when our job seekers are landing on our page on Glassdoor, the first thing they're seeing is this great feed of our company updates. And the people who decide to follow us, when they receive their weekly email, they're getting our company updates first in front of that user-contributed content. So we think it's a great way to, marry up the story we want to tell about ourselves with the story that our employees are telling about us. So if you go to the next slide, this is an actual screenshot of our awareness dashboard from the Glassdoor Employer Insight Center, and this was a big surprise to a lot of people on our team, our PR team, our leaders of the staffing organization, that the momentum on this site is huge. We've seen a 175% increase in traffic to our site over the last 3 years. In fact, we're actually the number 39 most viewed company on Glassdoor right now, so it was pretty obvious that we needed to start really managing this channel. And one stat that kind of blew our minds was the traffic to this page versus the traffic to LinkedIn careers page. We're seeing actually 10 times the traffic on Glassdoor. And shockingly, it's actually 2 times the traffic to our own career site. So that's a little bit about the why.
We may have lost audio there. Salesforce, are you guys there? Seems like we lost audio. We're working on it. There have been some questions that have been coming in during the feed, so I'm happy to take those while we work through the other issues. Are we working on an app for Windows Phone? That is not currently on our roadmap, I don't believe, but check out the blog, and we generally report on new product updates there. Can people follow you with a free account? Absolutely. Job seekers, all job seeker accounts are free. And any job seeker who's on the website, when they're logged in, can follow companies. How many of the 23 million users are in Canada? That's a good question. I don't have that number off the top of my head. If you hang tight by the Q&A session, I should be able to get that for you. You can also just write into Glassdoor, and our sales, marketing, PR folks, they have those numbers pretty well handy. The survey that I mentioned beforehand was a Media Bistro survey. If you Google Media Bistro and 73%, you should be able to land on the survey. It's one of the only ones that they have up there.
Hey, sorry guys, it looks like for some reason our phone system dropped, but I think we're back now. Are you able to hear us?
Perfect. All right, I'll let you continue. I was just answering a couple of questions in the meantime.
Okay, great. Can you go ahead and advance? I'm not sure where we dropped off. We got through this slide, the why. Go ahead and advance us to the how.
Sure. The who.
The who, perfect. Thanks so much.
Great band. Go ahead.
All right, so really quickly, getting going. Again, Glassdoor is a super important channel for us here at Salesforce, so we really try to be thoughtful in everything that we put up there and try to get the best possible experience with candidates who come checking us out. So our approach is really simple. It's easy to remember.
hopefully a few people out there can get some use out of these tips and tricks as you get going with company updates. So it's who, what, when, where, and how. That's how we walk through these company updates. So our first step when you're getting going with this, who? Who are you talking to? The most important thing is to think about your audience. The people reading these posts on your page are either already visiting your company page or they're following you and receiving these weekly email updates. So clearly they're already interested in your company and are actively looking for information about what it's like to work there, which is great. So you've already got that going for you. And this is not the place to try to sell your products or services. It's not the place to really hit people over the head with a, hardcore hiring message or any kind of corporate speak. This is your time to really, tell a deeper story, bring people, readers inside your culture, and let them know what your values, interests, and beliefs are through the content you choose to share. So really think about who's reading your page. All right, next slide. Moving on to the what. So what kind of content do you even want to post up here? As I'm sure your company is similar to ours, every company has many different layers, and this is a great place to really paint a beautiful picture of the many facets of your organization to give candidates a big picture view of what you're all about. So a mix of different types of dynamic content really allows you to tell a deep, complex, vibrant story about your culture. At Salesforce, we share a range of top stories, articles, awards. Sometimes we get into really deep dive into aspects of our benefits or our culture. We've put up spotlights on female leaders, quarterly videos. So that really, we want to tell people that we won an award, but we also want to give them an insight into a wellness plan or tell them how we've been volunteering and giving back in our communities. So as you approach these updates, think about what story you want your updates to tell when they're all viewed together holistically on your page, and make it a point to keep every post interesting and relevant. Next slide, please. All right, when? When should you post? The most important thing is, anything you put up there, you really want it to be compelling, but that said, you always want content to be fresh. So we try to post as often as we can, aiming for at least 3 times a week to keep the latest, most up-to-date current news always at the top of our feed. And another great way to keep that hot content top of mind for anyone viewing your page is through a feature called pinning. This allows you to pin a really awesome piece of content onto the top of your page. So it's always the first thing that viewers see when they come checking you out. It's a great way to leverage, awesome news or awards that you want to share. So if you can take a look at this slide, you can see we're really invested in posting regularly and always keeping that conversation going with potential candidates. Next slide. Where do you find awesome content? All right, if you're trying to post, 3 times a week, where are you going to get all that content? We like to look both internally within our company and externally. So starting internally, start looking out and keeping a pulse on your employees and what's going on in your organization, whether that's through newsletters, all hands meetings, events, interest groups. If your company has multiple different offices, reaching out to people in those hubs to kind of find out the different things going on and what's top of mind there. For us, a huge helpful tool is our internal social platform, Chatter. It's a great resource for us to really connect with our employees, reach out to different groups, and find all the late-breaking news and culture content. So looking within, getting a beat on your company, and then also looking externally. Start following your company in the news, finding out, is your CEO featured in an article? Is your company profiled in a local magazine? Is there any great news about hiring? I started getting a daily feed from Google News with every mention of Salesforce out there. So, if there's something great that you see that you want to share on Glassdoor, it's coming right to your inbox and you are ready to post. Another great way to stay on top of your company news is to follow your company on social media. So see what your organization is posting on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, a blog if you have one. A lot of that content could also potentially work for Glassdoor. It's a great way to leverage everything cool going on within your company. Next slide, please. Last but not least in our approach, how. How to make your post the most compelling so that readers and potential candidates keep coming back for more. The first thing is to keep it short. Easy to read, easy to digest. As you can see from this slide, most of our updates are only 1 or 2 sentences. So, get that quick hit, not be too overwhelming. The second is to keep it conversational. We don't want any corporate speak here that can turn off candidates. This is a great place to let your employer brand voice shine through and really connect with people. So appealing to your reader, thinking about, a voice that you can relate to and is someone that you would want to work for. So keeping conversational. Next, including a call to action or a link to drive engagement. We've seen that using links here and urging people to click through to find even more content that is interesting to them is a great way to drive engagement with these posts. Include an image if possible. As you can see, all of our posts here have images. It's way more eye-catching, way more fun to engage with, and we get great numbers on our posts that have images. And then one last little insider tip. It might not make sense yet, but trust me, it will as you get going. As you are writing these company updates, when you paste your link into the text box, the link will automatically populate underneath with an image. Then if you go back, you can delete the name of the link within the text box, and it just will make your updates look a lot cleaner and easier to read. So, play around with it, see how things work for you. But, as you can see here from this little lineup of some of our most high-performing posts, just putting that great different array of content up there. Like right here, you can see we have an interview with one of our female execs. We've got our recruiting secrets, tips for getting hired. We feature volunteer events, even a sneak peek inside Puppy Force, which is the area of our company where employees can bring their dogs. So it's really a holistic view, and keep going, see what works for your company, and have fun with it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Those are awesome tips. And just getting back a little bit to the strategy and why we go there and results, the net of all this activity of posting is really this rich feed of updates that tells an incredible story of our culture and our company that we think makes us even more appealing to candidates. We really want to paint this great picture outside our company for 2 compelling reasons. The first compelling reason is we want people who identify with us to be banging down our door to get in here. And we also want people who maybe don't, our culture does not resonate with them. We want them to say, okay, that company is not for me, and then we avoid making a bad hire that isn't a cultural fit. So this next screen here that you're seeing is actually the insights engine behind the updates, which has been so much fun for us to be able to really show an ROI on some of our employer brand storytelling that Sarah does. We've had almost 1 million impressions so far, and we think this is an incredibly good investment of about an hour of Sarah's time every week. So very thrilled to be working with updates and can't wait to keep doing more and just advancing our skills and making them even more engaging. So that's our story. Hopefully it's helpful to you as you get going. And back to you, Greg.
Thanks so much, guys. And Puppy Force, we need to talk more about that. Amazing. Okay, so we had a bunch of questions that came through. Just following up on the question that came up before around Canada. So we have about 1 million unique users a month coming through Canada at the moment. Canada is growing, is one of our fastest growing markets. We're actually 70% year over year if we look at the traffic last year versus this year. There's a lot of growth there. There have also been a couple of questions coming in about social aggregators, and when will we start working with some other companies? We are trying to work with other companies at the moment. Best thing I can tell you is to give feedback to your social aggregators. There are so many of them out there. Give feedback to the reps at the social aggregators, and let them know you really want this integration, and that'll help us get the ball rolling with some of the other aggregators out there. Another question came in about hashtags. We don't currently support hashtags on Glassdoor. We have a couple questions here for Salesforce. So one question is, do you have any metrics around the best time of day or days of the week to post updates?
You know, we haven't started tracking that for Glassdoor. I know it's different on different platforms. So I think as you get more aggregated with some of the standard social tools, some of that will become more clear. But in general, you know, the middle of the week tends to be a good time to post, and usually during the day tends to be a good time to post. Breakfast, lunchtime, after work, you know, when people aren't stuck in meetings all day and they're looking for another job at their current job, usually those off hours. That should just be some common sense around good times to post.
Yeah, and in terms of, you know, the analytics that we provide, we've discussed this before, but all of that stuff is recorded in the analytics section as well as the time of post, and so, you know, in terms of time and in terms of content, you know, you can experiment, right, and see what works for candidates who are interested in your company. See where you're getting the most engagement.
On that note, Greg, one thing I would note on that that's really cool is that actually we see the impressions continue to grow for weeks on Glassdoor, whereas some of your other channels, the feeds are pretty noisy and they kind of get buried and they never get seen again. So we definitely see the traction of one post going way beyond the day and time you post it. So there may be a difference in this channel in that respect.
That's an interesting point. Another question for Salesforce on the same topic is, what type of content have you found to be most successful? Is there a particular type of content that you've seen more engagement with than others?
That's a great question. We actually have seen, you know, a variety of different types of content that has gotten great engagement. One thing that I've really noticed is when viewers do not perceive that clicking through is going to be a big time commitment. So, you know, if something is perceived as, you know, quick hits, short, easy career tips, or, you know, the #1 secret to getting hired, really, you know, people are busy and they don't have a ton of time to read. So I think getting that message across, but definitely culture content and kind of insider sneak peeks that you can't get anywhere else, like whether it's inside our new office or, you know, hiring tips or, you know, behind the scenes of how we volunteer and give back. Those kinds of exclusive messages tend to do really well for us.
Interesting. There are a couple of other more specific questions coming up directed at me about the demographics of people on Glassdoor and things like that. For questions like that, I would say best to contact one of our sales or sales development folks. They give quick pitches that are, you know, 30 minutes. That'll give you an overview of who's on Glassdoor and, you know, the benefits of engaging on the site. Let's see here. Are you able to track individual users who have engaged with your content through an interview? Attribution. So at the moment, that's a good question. At the moment, the level of tracking is fairly high level. You can see engagement and you can see a couple of other metrics, but that doesn't necessarily track through to interview or hire. It's just having a tighter integration with ATSs is definitely something that we're working on, actually something that I personally am working on. Because, you know, essentially once a candidate reads information or engages with information on Glassdoor, then they go into the hiring system, they go over to the ATS, they apply for the job. Most of that data doesn't carry through. And so one of the things that we're working on is bridging that gap and enabling people to get a clearer view of the influence that information on Glassdoor has on job seekers. So that's definitely something we're working on. No, I'm not going to do that. That's too specific. All right, I think that's a pretty broad spectrum of questions. So you can contact me directly, actually, if there is specific questions that you have about Glassdoor. I'm more than happy to answer them. You can get me at greg.castle@glassdoor.com. And Salesforce guys, do you have anything else to say?
That's it. I think we're good. Thank you.
Good. All right. Well, thanks so much for being here, Salesforce guys. We really appreciate it, and thank you everyone for joining us.